Well, hello, it's Clive de Carle, and once again, I'm delighted to be joined by John White, all the way from China. And of course, there's a lot of interesting things going on in China, but we're here today to talk about a couple of John's devices, which I think you're going to be very interested to hear what they can do. So take it away, John.
Well, hello, Clive. Thank you for welcoming me to your show. Now we're going to talk about our MiraMate Flash. Now, MiraMate Flash is one of our most recent products. It's a product that I'm very, very proud of. You know, we make a lot of products, but Flash is special. It's close to my heart because it's just so absolutely simple. If you can use a hairdryer, in fact, the hairdryer is more complicated, I think, than Flash. You can use Flash without any reference to a big, thick manual user's guide. It's a very, very nice little machine. It's handy, convenient, but what does it do? Well, Clive, if you don't mind, I'd like to show a PowerPoint just explaining a bit more of the details of Flash. So I will share my screen and
Well, excellent. I mean, just my type of machine. It's got on, off, and that's it.
Pretty much so. You do have an option for setting the power level. So, truth be known, there's two buttons. but you know,
that's what you want. You want on, off, and more.
Absolutely. We want as few buttons as possible. Okay, so we'll start the presentation. Okay. Well, here we go, MiraMate Flash. Now, MiraMate Flash is brilliant for skin conditions. So I can treat acne, psoriasis, age spots, or I call them beauty spots, eczema, itching, fungal skin problems. Now, the thing with many of those conditions, Clive, is they can affect one's self-esteem. If your face is covered with acne, for example, you may not want to go out to parties, go to social events, because you feel very self-conscious. So even though those conditions aren't clinically important, they certainly won't put you into hospital, they will make a big impact in your life. And so Flash is, Flash can address those, then it's amazing, but we'll go into that very, very shortly. Now, MiraMate Flash can conquer all those skin conditions, but it can also be skin cancer. And that's quite a bold claim, and we are aware of that. So with claims, you need proof. So we thought, well, okay, we've got this device. We know it kills cancer cells because we had done in-house tests. But we decided to do outside laboratory tests as well, just to confirm. Now
you presumably seen the results on people's skin rather than just in the laboratory with that, have you?
We've done that with both. Of course, when you develop something, Clive, the first person you develop, you test the equipment on is the person you see in the mirror. And so I was playing hunt the mole and get it. So I was finding spots and zapping them. And I was finding that I was running out of spots, really seriously running out of spots, to the point where I stopped testing and left. I've only got two tiny little spots because I need them for another thing which I'm developing. And so I started going on to other people and doing tests with them. That was very early on during development. And then we got the unit finished. We thought, right, we're happy with it. We'll do our in vitro tests. So I did these, and I'll show you the results of those very shortly. All fantastic. We thought, okay, we'll bite the bullet. We'll have these laboratory tests done using cancer, the big C. And those tests, of course, are extremely expensive. Normally, it's the large corporations that can afford to do them. But for us to say we can get cancer, we needed proof. So we had to go down that road. Now, E. coli, we did some tests ourselves on E. coli, and we saw what the results were after flashing, after 1 day and after 2 days. Now, E. coli is a very serious disease. It normally resides inside healthy people, but many strains can cause infections of the digestive tract, and it can cause serious problems, including diarrhea and abdominal pain. So it's an ideal pathogen to test. Now you can see on the left-hand side the number of flashes that we subjected our Petri dishes to. Level 1, 2, and levels 1, 3, and 5 indicate the power level setting that our flash was set to. And on the top left-hand corner, for example, that dish was flashed once on level 1. And on the right-hand side on the top was maximum power, level 5, 1 flash. So after 24 hours, you can see the control at the very, very bottom. You can see those little bubbles there. Those are colonies of E. coli that are having a little party there. 1 flash on the lowest power on the top left-hand corner, you can see a few bubbles, a few little parties around the edge there, and very little in the center. Level 3, they're pretty close to wiped out. Level 5 is perfectly clear, even just with a single flash. On 10 flashes further down, you can see that on level 1 even, the lowest power level, there's no parties on any of those power levels for 10 flashes. 48 hours after the party started. Okay, now it gets a little bit more interesting. You can see that if we used 1 flash, level 1 is rocking again. What's happened is the few surviving E. coli re-established themselves and started afresh. Level 3 sort of threw a bit of cold water into the party, so there wasn't much happening there. Level 5, you can see just a tiny bit around the edges, pretty much gone. And this is 1 single flash, Clive. Each flash is just a few microseconds in length. If it's 10 flashes, even the lowest power level, that E. coli wasn't very happy. You can see there's not much there at all. And even for the middle and maximum power settings, not much happening there at all. And look at the control, parties everywhere. The E. coli is really enjoying itself. So that was an interesting experiment. It was our first one that we did, and on the strengths of that, encouraged, we decided to go to something a little bit more serious. Now, Staphylococcus aureus is the most dangerous of all the common staphylococcal bacteria, so I thought, yeah, we'll go for that one. Now, these are the 2 dishes that we used for the test. The incubation period was 24 hours. I swabbed in the regular motion. You can see in the control, it's as if I painted it with a black pen, the cotton bud with the Staphylococcus aureus on it over the nutrient of the alga. The control is fully black. But you see on the right, which was flashed 10 times, that would have been under maximum power, there's only tiny flakes of that bacteria. So it's had quite a pronounced effect. Both of those dishes were prepared in the same way, but only the one on the right was flashed. We've done other tests, Clive, between times. What test is complete without the persimmon test? So we've got fully flashed persimmon on the left and the unflashed on the right. Not much of a change there, but look after a day. The one on the left is unchanged, and the one on the right is just covered in mold. And so flash has killed the mold spores outright. That persimmon on the left lived for long. In fact, I still think it's waiting for mold to start on that one. And the one on the right, we've had to throw that one away. It was getting too smelly. So that was
So
quite. Oh, sorry.
that's very interesting. And just so I can get the impression of the size of it, or viewers can get the impression of the size of the device, would you have had to flash from more? Was that fruit just the perfect size to do flashes from one point, or would you have had to gone round it from every angle to have done that?
Each persimmon by memory would have been flashed 10 times, once for each position.
Right. Okay.
I will explain further the size of the window of the flash and how to best apply it. But that's coming up soon. So this is the big test, Clive, the cancer one, the big C. Cancer is the word that everyone's afraid of, and for good reason. Everyone's lost family, friends. Everyone knows someone that's succumbed to this disease. And we really wanted to know whether Flash could go for the big one. Well, okay, I won't give anything away yet, but the experiment was divided into 4 groups to find the optimum number of flashes required to kill the cancer cells. This is assuming that Flash was successful in doing that. We were going from 1, which was a control group, to number 4, which used 10 flashes in each flash position at maximum power. Now this graph is absolutely amazing, Clive. It shows that the control at the bottom had 0 dying over the period of 48, 20, okay, sorry. This graph shows how effective Flash was in killing the cancer cells. In the control group, hardly any of the cells died. But 90.21, isn't it good to go to 2 decimal places, of the cells died within 48 hours after being flashed. Now, the very important thing to note, Clive, is even after 24 hours, the cells continued to die. They didn't recover. And so the damage that Flash did to the cancer cells was permanent. It was a knockout. Now, there's several conditions which people may not realize, which are closely associated with the same pathogens that are aligned with cancer. And I'll go through them very shortly. Now, this woman had a very, very chronic fungal condition, I should say, of her wrist. It just would not go away. It was so bad, Clive, that she'd use steel wool to try and scrape it off. So itchy. So it was a nightmare for her. Absolute nightmare.
And do you think, could I ask, do you think it'd be true to say that that was just indicative, as it happened to be on the outside of her body, and that she could have had all sorts of fungal issues going on in other parts of her body as well, do you think?
Yes. And indeed there are candida issues as well. We wanted to see what the effect of Flash was on her wrist. And so we flashed it once. After less than 10 times, we flashed it 10 times, over the duration of a month. And each time was 10 flashes at maximum power. On the left, her skin looks terrible. It's a shame we didn't get the same perspective. But her skin, the lump wasn't so raised. It's a shame you can't see the relief photo on the left, but the skin wasn't so raised. It got the same color as the rest of her arm, no itchiness. The fungus was knocked out, and the skin was just recovering, just turning back into normal skin.
Excellent.
Now, this is a boil that was behind a person's ear. This is another chronic condition. She'd had this for many years, and it just would not go away. You can see it's one of those nasty ones. It's got a little white head there. It's got the inflammation around there. This was just a constant bother. Well, she flashed it 5 times once. In one application, 5 flashes, and then left it. After 48 hours, you can see what happened. The inflammation just went, the boil just got dissolved, got removed by the body's own toxin removal mechanisms. And well, this was about a year ago, and it hasn't come back. It's just a normal ear. It's another irritating thing that just through one single application, Clive, has gone away. Now, this was one of the tests which we did during development, so you can understand how our excitement grew and grew as we're developing and as we're refining this machine. Really blew us away just how effective it was for issues which are important to us.
Well, absolutely. It's brilliant.
Now, this is acne. This was a boy who had facial acne, of course, who doesn't when they're around that sort of teenage years. After 30 flashes total on minimum power for 4 days, look at his face on the right. It's just totally different. I know the colour's different, but there's been no touch-ups. It's just because it wasn't photographed in a studio. It was photographed in a home. And I'm picking that the one on the left was photographed at night. And but you look at this person's face, and it's just like a baby's face. Isn't it amazing? So this person, no more self-conscious, sort of covering up parts, wearing high collar clothing. They just 30 flashes total on one on setting number 1, the minimum power, and it does that, which is magic.
Well, there must be a billion spotty teenagers out there who are going to love you to death.
Well, I wish that this machine was out when I was a teenager. Who doesn't have acne?
Yeah, fantastic.
Okay, so this is a wart that a person had on their elbow. You can see the wart on the left and on the center photo. But can you see it on the right?
It's impressive.
After 16 days, it's just gone. Now, a lot of skin conditions are born through viruses, which also cause bigger issues. And I've got a theory with age spots as well, Clive. I believe that age spots aren't due to age. It's through to changes in our immune systems, and our bodies are shunting viruses, pathogens, to points in our skin where they can be corralled and kept at bay. And so we've got these reservoirs, well, not me anymore, but a lot of people have got reservoirs of viruses on their skin. As you get older, then you get more serious skin conditions, but the pathogens can move into your body and cause havoc with your internal organs and elsewhere. I believe, Clive, that age spots can be precursors to internal cancers. So I believe it's very, very important to make sure that if they do arrive, you knock their party on the head.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So I'd like to talk to you at another time about, do a specific interview about cancer if you'd be on for that, because I know your experience is superb.
Sure. Here we've got eczema, person flashing, and his rashes have gone on the photo on the right. The skin's returning to baby pink, the way it should be. It's just 10 flashes per day for a week. Now,
if someone got carried away and they just did it too much, is there any risk?
Well, we'll cover that very shortly, Clive, because when I go through explaining how Flash works, the question that people have in their mind immediately is, well, is it going to make my skin turn red? Am I going to get cancer because of the rays that Flash puts out? But I'll explain that very, very shortly. Here we've got a wound. Now this wound has been like this for months. It wouldn't heal beyond this point. And I think as we get older, our circulation isn't so good. People that got diabetes have also got problems like this, where you get like a pool of bad blood and bruising. And you can see that on the left, and in the center photo, it's getting a little bit better. But look at on the right. It's getting back to how it should be. It's cleared up something which is a little bit under the skin. And I'll explain again in more detail soon about that. Now, age spots. Now, I know you haven't got age spots, but some people do. And this woman had age spots a lot on the side of her face, and she's got crusty skin as well. Well, 10 flashes, maximum power for only 4 days, Clive. 4 days. Now, just to put things in perspective, 10 flashes, we're talking about 10 seconds treatment. It's about a second per flash. Who can't afford 10 seconds in their life, in their daily routine, to zap anything that they may notice in the mirror? They can leave flash next to the mirror, and then when they look at themselves in the mirror, oh, I've got a bit of an acne spot, time for flash, and they flash it. Oh, I didn't notice an age spot coming up. Here we go. Give it a few to, to give it a bit of a headache, and the problems disappear.
What about the age spots on somebody who's really elderly, and now they've got sort of quite a dark brown age spot there? Have you had much experience with that kind of level of it?
We've had reports of people that have, well, age spots. I guess if you've had an age spot for a very, very long time, that's the acid test, isn't it? And it didn't seem to make much difference. It still seemed to dissolve the age spots and just make it back into baby pink skin, baby skin.
Brilliant.
It's kind of a chemist shop nightmare, really, because normally you'd get urea cream for fungal conditions, acne cream for the pimples, and it's and you've got to go back and back and back. You've got to maintain the condition because it never gets resolved. Whereas Flash, which is a once only purchase, can resolve it. It's gone. It's like, wow. One of the names, we were thinking about a name for Flash, when we were developing it. And because Flash works so quickly, we described it to ourselves like spots are like gone in a flash. And so that name stuck. This is why it came to earn that name, as well as the fact it does literally flash. That's the main main reason why we called it Flash. Yeah. Okay, now this is something very, very serious. Basal cell carcinoma is missing an A. Carcinoma. Now, basal cell carcinoma is a cancer that takes many lives, Clive. If you can nip this one in the bud, stop this one in its tracks before it starts drilling deep, then that's the best way of doing it. And this is what Flash has done. You can see it's got more than just one eruption there. It's actually got 3, very close together. Day 1, this is after 1 session of flashing. You can see already it's flattened a lot. There's no profile to the carcinoma. So the carcinomas realised, gosh, there's something happening. I'm not liking it at all. And it's a real shame that the focus of this last one was not quite so good. But basically, it had gone back to normal skin. Yeah, it would have been beautiful to get the same colour in that. But after 2 weeks of treatment, the basal cell carcinoma was history. And it was confirmed. It was confirmed by subsequent tests. They did a scrape. Now, this is a burn that someone has had on their skin. Now, you wouldn't think normally, Clive, that something which, because flashes of light can actually resolve a problem like a burn. You'd think burns really just need the body's natural healing abilities. But what Flash does, because it throws photons into the skin cells, it fires up the mitochondria so that it allows the body to heal itself faster. And that's part of the healing mechanism that Flash uses. And part of the reason why Flash is so broad spectrum. It's gone to the point where if you can see it on your skin, Flash can resolve it. And we thought, well, okay, we know what's happening on the skin. What about other things like environmental issues, mold, and the dangerous one, of course, black mold, which is what this one is. On the left, you can see the mold happily growing away in its garden. That's an interior wall. The floor was marble and it's cold, so you get some condensation, microscopic condensation, and the mold, of course, starts creeping up the wall. The photo on the right, it's only flashed once. 10 flashes for each position. In other words, Clive, you flash it 10 times, then you move the head along a little bit and flash again, using maximum power. And a month then went by, and this is what the result was. You can see that the mold is gone. You can still see where the mold was, so presumably the mold actually ate away a bit into the wall lining. But you can see that the mold itself is gone. Actually, after 1 month, it got even better after that. We should have been more patient with that photo because it hasn't returned the mold and the wall has gone a little bit better. Okay, well, there's our baby, Flash. I'll show you a flash in the flesh. I'm a poet and I know it. After the PowerPoint. But that's what Flash looks like. It just looks like a little gun, I suppose. It looks like a Star Trek device, doesn't it? This little thing, it's got a trigger on the handle. When you plug it in, if you pull the trigger, you'd never guess it, Clive, it starts working. And so you can take it out from the box and start using it straight away, 0 instructions. I just love it. Now I've got a video here to show you the usage of Flash. If I can learn how to use MiraMate Flash. Hi everyone, in this video we will show you how to use MiraMate Flash. Don't worry, it is very simple to operate. MiraMate Flash box has the main unit, power supply, goggles, single hole punch and stickers. First, connect the power adapter into the power socket. And the other end goes into the mains power source. Second, long press the on-off power level button. Flash will turn on. The charge indicator and power level indicators will shine a green light. You'll hear the fan start to run. Third, press the on-off power level button briefly to adjust the power level from low to high. Level 1 is the lowest power and level 5 is the highest. The default setting is level 1. The LEDs indicate the selected power level. Wear protective glasses before using Flash. If you use Flash for a large area, larger than the front lens area, treat one section at a time. Touch the front lens onto the treated area and pull the trigger. Flash will start producing bursts of VUV light. If you use Flash for a small area, which is smaller than the front lens area, you can use the provided UV protection stickers to shield the surrounding skin. Use the supplied hole punch to cut a hole in the sticker. The hole size should match the desired treatment area. You can make the hole larger or change its shape by making multiple cuts. Position the sticker on your skin, ensuring the skin blemish is exposed by the hole. Position the front lens of flash onto the sticker and commence normal treatment. After treatment, long press the on-off power level button to turn off flash. Flash will automatically turn off after a period of 5 minutes inactivity. It's important to always wear protective glasses before using flash. Everyone's skin is different. Some people have pale, sensitive skin. We recommend starting slowly to find your optimum flash settings. For the first day of treatment, we recommend to flash only once at maximum power for each treatment position. Increase the number of flashes the next day if your skin has not turned red and further treatment is required. Flash can also be used to kill mold spots on walls and mold on plants. Do not use if you have epilepsy or light-induced seizures or migraines. Use a dry or slightly damp soft cloth to clean the body of flash. Do not use cleaning products which contain alcohol or other harsh solvents. And ensure your skin is clean and free from any sunblock or skincare products before use. Alrighty, so that's the instructions on how to use flash. You can see it's very, very simple. It's just a point and shoot thing. So if you can use like a hairdryer, you can use this. But now we get into the nitty gritty, Clive. It's not magic, it's actually science. Now, flash uses ultraviolet. Now, ultraviolet has got a stigma. People associate ultraviolet with radiation, with cancer, sunburn, things like this. So I just want to dispel some of those fears. Now, ultraviolet covers a very wide range of wavelengths. It's everything from 40 nanometers all the way up to 400. X-rays actually are right at the 40 nanometer range, so it gets right down there. UV is in different parts. There's UVA, B, C, and vacuum UV. Now, the decreasing wavelengths correspond with higher frequencies. These are the light frequencies, and also higher photon energy. Now, VUV is vacuum ultraviolet. It's called vacuum because it can't travel through air. It has to have a vacuum for this type of light to pass through. Air molecules will block VUV. Now, flash works by sending controlled bursts of VUV light. This is that vacuum ultraviolet. Now, because flash is touching the skin, there's no air to block the VUV. And so it passes easily to the very outside of the skin. VUV does not pass through skin. So even though it's ultraviolet, the ultraviolet does not reach living cells. However, the ultraviolet photons set off a chemical reaction, and the two main components of that reaction are what does the magic, is the ozone and the nitric acid. And those two chemicals do the work in clearing the bacteria, viruses, fungal and parasitic infections. They're two very, very strong oxidizing agents. And so even though the ultraviolet doesn't reach living tissue, nitric oxide and the ozone do, or does. So, and that neither of those two are dangerous for our bodies. In fact, we've got them in our bodies naturally anyway to different degrees. So it's nothing that's foreign to our bodies. Now, there's different types of ultraviolet, Clive, as I explained before. Most of them are dangerous, real dangerous. It's when you go outside for a day, probably not so much in the UK, but other countries, you go outside and you get your sunburn after a very short period of time. That's the ultraviolet light from sunlight, which is entering your skin and burrowing down deep into your tissue, into the live skin cells. Flash wavelengths, which is in the range of 180 to 222 nanometers, does not penetrate past the dead layer of skin. So it doesn't harm live skin cells or any of the other subcutaneous tissue. But it does penetrate and kill bacteria and viruses living on the skin. And so it's one of those things, Clive, where it's all good news and no bad news. And there's no known side effects or complications for VUV light treatment devices. VUV is safe.
And can I ask, would it trigger the production of vitamin D?
No, because it does not pass through the skin. Now, this was an article written regarding a device which was manufactured for killing airborne pathogens. And of course, they had the concern, is it safe? And they were using 222 nanometers wavelength in their device. So they did tests and they found that you could even look at this light and it wouldn't harm you because it wouldn't pass through the tear layer of your eye. It really does get blocked quite rapidly by anything like that. And so they found that they could use it very safely without it being fully shielded. And the lamp that they created, it's less than $1,000. So okay, this is of course our device is much cheaper, and you always ask me how much is it. No, I actually failed to find out the cost, but if you go to MiraMate.com, it's got the price there, but it's way cheaper than that. But it's actually quite expensive and not easy to create VUV. It's why it hasn't actually been done until now. Everything is expensive in the light side. The type of glass that's used, the type of gases that's necessary, the type of gases that are used, and the way it's delivered. All of this is critical for success. You get it wrong, and then you pay the price with skin damage and it being ineffective. But we've got it all together in a beautiful little flash unit. Okay.
That looks very good.
Now we do say use protective flashes because the burst of light is so intense. There is a small amount of light in the higher wavelengths. And because flash is so powerful, that residual light can be quite bright to the eyes. And any bright sudden flash can damage the retina in your eyes. And so we supply glasses with every flash that we sell. And we recommend that you put the glasses on before using. And this is just going through what was explained in the video. You can even use it for plants, Clive. You can see the plant down the bottom there getting the VIP treatment. It had mold, on the leaves.
Yeah, very interesting.
Now the lens at the front of Flash isn't large. It's 30 millimeters by 12 millimeters or 13 millimeters. And so you've got to flash one area, then move to the next area, just bit by bit. But because flashing is so quick, it doesn't take that long to do, a larger area.
How long do you think it might have taken to do that plant?
Well, gosh, for every leaf, even wiping each leaf with a cloth would take a long time, wouldn't it? I guess maybe
Well, yeah, sure.
it wouldn't be a job that I'd want to do, but I'd say it would take about an hour.
Right, okay, well, that puts it in perspective.
If
you love the plant, it would be an hour well spent.
It would be. Well, my attention span is about 5 seconds, so I think well, this is why I got someone else to do it for me. So what was I talking about? Specifications. Okay, now it covers a broad voltage range, so it's everything from America to the UK. Its power supply reduces it down to a safe 24 volts, and it's nice and small. You get the color option of white or white. Cautions, we give cautions for all our devices. As with this product, it's with any other product. Take care. If there's anything that reacts as a result of using this device or any other, you must stop or reduce the amount of application times that you're using. People who are pregnant or have a disease which is related to photosensitivity shouldn't use Flash. I've mentioned the goggles already. We recommend only once a day, up to 10 flashes, but you can do more for more severe conditions. Some people's skin, Clive, is very sensitive and it may turn red, especially in the UK, because I noticed some people, they've got zero tan, negative tan, and so maybe you will want to start very slowly just to make sure that your skin can handle this.
Can I ask you about the pregnancy side? Is that because, I very much doubt it, that they've actually found some negative effect, or is it just being safe for insurance purposes?
It's the latter. It's really a blanket warning that we state with all of our devices. If we sold an apple, we'd still say, be cautious if you're pregnant. Everything that we have. I can't see any reason personally why not, but we've got to really state this, Clive. Pregnancy is a very special condition. It's only lasting just over 9 months. So, if you've got a spot on your skin or a age spot, it's only a little bit you've got to wait. And quite often people develop spots during the pregnancy, don't they? In fact, I've noticed this. So you just wait until the baby, your precious child's born, and then you can deal to it. And Flash, the results are so quick, Clive, that it's not like you've got to plan several months ahead and start flashing and then keep on going for it. It works in a flash. So, as I say, just wait until your pregnancy is over and then start flashing. Make sure you've got no sunblock or skincare products on your skin before using it. A lot of skincare products do contain a sunblock, which of course is a VUV block. So just give yourself a wash with soap and dry yourself with a regular towel before using.
So presumably, if you had some artificial chemical in a cream or something, you could actually be driving it in further, or would that not be the case?
I guess so. We haven't done tests for this, Clive, because that wasn't our focus. I guess it is possible because we have other mechanisms where bursts of electrons can basically give a non-needle injection into your body. And perhaps these photons can as well, because the energy is quite high.
The real lesson is that people need to stop putting on nasty chemicals onto their skin, because people don't seem to realise they're going straight into their bloodstream.
They've got no idea. Some people have got no idea. Well, they look beautiful at the time, but gosh, some of these keep looking young products are doing everything but. After 10 years, you've got to put extra layers on because you're starting to look older than your peers. So for people that are watching this video, as Clive says, look at the label, see what you're actually putting into your skin, because what you're putting onto your skin, you're putting into yourself. Your skin is porous. What you put on your skin ends up directly into your bloodstream.
And of course, the skin is reactive. So you put an outside emollient on the skin will say, "All right, then I don't need to make so much myself." So
Well, that's
you're never ahead of the game.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I don't use sunblock, but I do monitor what I wear and how often I go outside, of course, when it's sunny, like our ancestors would have done, Clive. And they weren't clowns. They weren't idiots. And the last warning, keep flash out of the reach of children. Well, that's because it's so much fun and it looks like a gun. They won't give it back and you'll lose it. But also, I guess the burst of light wouldn't be so good for their eyes if they're not wearing glasses. So, yeah, we do recommend keeping out of reach of children. We've got a few questions here. Research and development of Flash. Well, when I was developing Flash, I had a lot of variables that I had to really refine, put into one of two boxes. One box that is a goer, one's not a goer, one that works and one doesn't work. And as part of this testing, of course, the most convenient subject is myself. So I started flashing the back of my hands and every spot I could find on my body. And truly, after a couple of weeks, I ran out of spots to test. That's not quite right, Clive. I've still got two faint ones on the back of my hand. Is my picture on the video? Can you see me? I think you might have yourself still on mute. I'm professional mute.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not seeing you. I'm just seeing the.
Okay. Well, I'll show you what my hand looks like after the presentation. But I did run out of spots. If you have a birthmark, Flash won't affect the birthmark because that birthmark is you. It's only your cells there. There's no viruses, or hopefully no viruses or other types of bugs that are inside that spot. So there's nothing for Flash to do. And we hired a professional test laboratory, an expensive professional test laboratory, I had no idea at the start, to test on the cancer, the malignant melanoma. It's a common skin cancer. It's also a common killer. And of course, we've seen the results of that in the graphs that were in the presentation. We used a common IPL, which is an intense pulse light unit body, because you wanted to keep the costs down. So it looks very much like another unit that's on the market, but we gutted it and put different electronics and optics inside the unit. So we didn't have to worry too much about the housing, the molds, so that's cost. It also prolongs the release date, and we wanted to get it out on the market. So we could put all our efforts into the expensive things, which were things like the glass. Now you imagine a little glass that's, I'll put this in imperial terms, it's it's just over 1 inch by half an inch, roughly, in size. A little square of thin glass. It's a lens. The cost of the single piece of glass is over $100 US. And that's because glass blocks VUV. Another reason why it hasn't been done before. It's just ridiculously expensive. So you've got the special glass. Even the tube that does the flashing has got to be made from this special glass. And so it's just horribly, horribly expensive. We hunted high and low for a manufacturer that has the ability to make the flash tube using that glass, using our special gas mix. We only found one that both had the ability to do this and the licensing, because some of those gases were very exotic. And so we did a lot of, we could throw everything into that to get it right. Okay, what is the effective treatment area of Flash and how deeply does Flash penetrate? Well, I've explained it doesn't really penetrate much at all. And it only treats the area that has been flashed, which is the size of this tiny window. And to treat large areas, you've got to move the head by small increments. What features does Flash have? Well, it's beautiful for a start, but what else does it have? Well, it's easy to use, low operating cost, safe. In fact, the operating cost it costs real peanuts to run because it's not super high power. It's only a maximum of, or an average, I guess, of about 1 amp at 24 volts. So it's about 24 watts, about a quarter the power of an incandescent light bulb. And you're not using it all the time. It's only while you're treating it. And it's a single one-off cost. It's not like you've got to buy a packet of drugs all the time. It's got a long life expectancy. Boy, it's got a long lifetime expectancy. The tube is good for 300,000 flashes guaranteed. Now we've still got our test unit thumping away. It'll be thumping away still as we speak, continuously. Must be well over 6 months now, Clive, continuous use, flashing. It's still just tick, 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 ticking away. And it's also a proven technology. It's nothing magic with it. There's a long history of VEV being used for killing both bacteria and viruses. The difference between Flash and what's been done up to now is that we're not using mercury. And mercury produces a dangerous form of ultraviolet. We use 0 mercury in our Flash. Of course. Is it battery powered? No battery. It needs to be powered by the power adapter. That's a shame really, but I guess, you know, the battery would need to be quite large because 24 watts, let's say if you wanted to treat over an hour, it's quite a lot of amp hours in that. But it's not too difficult, I guess, to find a power socket and start flashing away. And because the treatments are so brief, it's not like you've got to sit down for half an hour or an hour, flash, 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 you know. It's very brief. And it's safe to use with the shaver outlets. You can use it with them, which most houses I'd go as far as to say have got next to a mirror. So you've got the mirror, you've got Flash. What else do you want? We've got glasses, got everything there. It could be part of your daily routine. And one day you could be, Clive, as handsome as me. Well, maybe, you know. What is the recommended duration to use each time, and how often should you use Flash? Now, we wanted to find out with different types of skin types. We didn't really come up with anything conclusive, Clive. There was the general finding that pale skins are more sensitive, and so we found that it's best to start more carefully. But if you spend a lot of time outdoors, if you play tennis or just walking a lot in the sunshine, your skin can tolerate many more flashes. If you flash too many times, your skin will go red. It won't burn your skin unless you go way overboard. And yes, we have had users, of course, Clive, users wanting to really push the boundaries and find out what is the maximum. So we've had people flashing for 10 minutes in a single spot. And that did make their skin turn red. And that's ridiculous. Now, Flash, if you have viruses or bacteria, the amount of energy that you need to disable those pathogens is way, way less than the power required to do damage to your own cells. And so you're way under the threshold if you flash, say, 10 times at maximum power for most skin types in one position. But like anything, Clive, you know, start slowly, always play it safe, everybody. How long does it take to see any effect? Okay, it depends how long and how severe the problem is. Now, there's mention about our cancer cell test, but that was on a slide, not in real life. Now, what I found is that even though I've written a lot there, I'll give you a short answer. Normally it's 24 hours. You can start something disappearing or gone, one of the two. Or you flash once, you forget about it, and you look 2 or 3 days later, and now where was it where I flashed? What was I actually flashing? Because there's nothing there. So it's very, very fast. It's not like you've got to take a medicine and then continue a course of antibiotics for a certain period of time and something may happen. And of course you get your side effects as well, which is a euphemism for really serious bad effects, or effects you don't want, but that's for a different story another time. No, Flash just does its job and that's it. Will the symptoms return? We found that they don't. It's been about 6 months, which since I've been flashing my beauty spots, and they haven't returned. The photos which I showed you at the start of this presentation, those issues have not come back. The fungus on the wrist is still not returned. The skin's still returning to normal. It's still not perfect, but she's not been using the flashing, and it's probably going to be gone in a few weeks' time. It's because it was so severe. But generally, if you remove the cause of something, that something will go away. And that's what Flash does. It removes the cause of that issue. And as I said before, I believe age spots are not a natural thing. I think age spots are something people should not have. It's certainly something that you'd have to have now that Flash is out. What part of the body can Flash be used? Can you use it on broken skin and ulcerated skin? Now, this is a good question because you can't use very much on broken skin, can you, Clive? You've got to be very, very careful. And
yes,
if your skin is broken, then your skin can get infected so easily. But the good news is you can use Flash anywhere except for the very, very sensitive areas. Your mucous membranes inside your mouth, on your eyes. But it can certainly be used on broken or ulcerated skin. Now, I just want to elaborate on this just a little bit, Clive. This person has a cancer mole on their eyelid. That's incredibly close to their eye. It's getting pretty dangerously close on the lower eyelid. They masked off their eye and just flashed pretty much blindly where it was, where the mole was, and that's now virtually gone. And so it wasn't quite on the eye, but so close. It's just, wow, really close. But that hasn't done any damage to his eye. And people have also used it inside their mouths. And so you can use it on your gums, for example. It will be a little bit awkward because the head is quite large on the unit, but it can be done. We don't recommend it. If you do, start real slow, minimum power, even just give it one flash, and then see what it's like the next day. No soreness. Go to maybe 3 or 5 flashes on the same power level, and then slowly increment the power level. You will be surprised with any condition just how quickly Flash works. It's really the device that should have been around when you and I were younger, Clive, and we had acne, But even adult acne, that's very, very embarrassing. It resolves that so quickly. Okay, side effects. What sort of side effects does Flash have for skin problems? Well, it's a short list, Clive. I'm not sure where to start. In fact, I might just not really say anything at all. I will stipulate, again, if there is a side effect, it's if people misuse it. They do it for too many times. If you're
going to get a few positive side effects, more happiness.
Well, that's how I like to use the word side effect, because the Flash wasn't created to make your life happy and give you more self-confidence, but it will. So that is a side effect, as you rightly state. as a side effect. It will make you more emboldened. It'll make you more self-confident. Your self-esteem will come up. You can probably be more happy in speaking in public places or public speaking, or just general life, Clive. Just who loves going to parties with a big zit on their nose? I mean, it's a really good look, isn't it?
Well, I've got personal experience of this because as I think you will remember, I made a big mistake in my early 30s going to a doctor because I had spots on my face.
Yeah.
The doctor gave me an antibiotic. One antibiotic left me diabetic type 1, arthritic, and all sorts of things. I'm over all the arthritis now, but the alternative from the doctors, I mean, if I'd listened to the doctor's advice after they made me ill, I would have been dead 30 years ago or something, because they were advising the most stupid course of action, and all I needed was nutrition. But I could have, of course, used this device and never needed to go to the doctor in the first place.
The sad news, Clive, is that it hasn't really got much better. The real sad news is the medical people knock devices like this. They say, well, it can't work. They bring out their books stating how ultraviolet light is so dangerous. It actually causes cancer, and so they get people back on their bandwagon. They stop people from looking outside and finding real solutions. As a child, Clive, I noticed that if I did spend an extra amount of time outside, my acne will get less, will clear up a little bit. I noticed that, but I never really gave it a terrific lot of thought. And I certainly didn't realize at the time the significance of the ultraviolet, which I would have been getting. Of course, a lot of that ultraviolet would have been the dangerous ultraviolet. In fact, most of it is, Clive, because the VUV, the safe ultraviolet, doesn't pass through air very well. So by the time it's gone through the atmosphere, there's none there. So you're really getting only the UVB and UVA. You're not getting the good one. Whereas our device, it delivers straight to the skin. You have the lens touching the skin and press the trigger. Okay, can Flash be used together with other products under MiraMate, like Mini Magic, Big Magic, and Joint Aid? These three devices, well, two devices are pulsed EMF, and the third one is a laser device, which we developed for joint pains. And yeah, they can all be used simultaneously. You get this with a lot of devices that don't have negative side effects. If there's positive side effects, and you can use it with other devices, you can eat an apple and a pear because one doesn't produce a side effect which the other one may react to. They're naturally occurring things. VUV is a natural waveform, but we don't get much of it. Flash delivers a natural waveform in a natural way. Oh, that's it. Bit of an anticlimax to the end of it, isn't it?
Well, very good.
So that was
well, I mean, it's super interesting, and I think almost everybody's got some member of the family who's got a skin problem one way or another.
This is our Flash. Does the writing appear okay, or does it go herself?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, it's good. Okay, well, this is our Flash. I'm going to do an unpacking just to show you what it looks like in the flesh. In the flesh. In the flash. Good gracious, I've said Flash too many times. Well, we get a instructions manual, a hole punch. You get everything. It's exciting, and the excitement grows. You get the glasses, hair adapter, and dig a little bit deeper, and there's our Flash here. Beautiful little unit. This is the white option. And you can see the lens size here. So it's not very large. It's just over an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter long, and about half an inch, just over half an inch high. You just hold it onto your skin and you start flashing away. And we have a lot of people just having these next to the mirror. So when they get up, they do their shaving or do their, just before they put the makeup on, they see something they don't like and they flash it. You'll notice it on my skin. I'm not actually bald, but I quite like having skin I can touch. And I was getting a bit of a solar panel on the top, but you can see that my skin is extremely good. I don't have any spots there at all. And that's because Flash has gone to town. And I wanted to show you the back of my hand. Now, this hand wasn't so bad. It didn't have too many beauty marks. But this hand had a lot. This is the hand where it's when you drive, this is the one that gets the sunlight. You can see a very, very faint spot there. And there's one faint spot up there. That one's a birthmark. Now, this used to be covered in beauty spots. Now, I've used this as a test bed, and I've kept those 2 spots for future testing because I need them. But if I flashed it once in one session, they'd be gone. It's very, very... Flash does not like spots, I can tell you that. Spots of any kind. So if you want to have baby skin somewhere, well, just use Flash on it, and you'll be very, very impressed with it for sure. It's a convenient thing. It's just plug and go. I really wish that someone else had invented it before we had, but they didn't, and so we did. I guess if it was made by other companies, maybe the price wouldn't be quite so cheap. Maybe they take advantage of the fact that people are so self-conscious that, with their spots, with their acne, they are willing to pay a higher price. And that's quite often the factor. What is the amount someone is willing to pay for a product? Instead of looking at it at how much did it take to produce, which is the honest price of something. So when we develop something, we factor in our cost, 5% for our trust for humanity, $1 for the one hope. These are 2 things that we've done since virtually day dot in our company. And then a little bit of a margin for research. And that's it. Easy maths. And so we find that...
And enough money to eat lunch.
Yeah, well, our profit margin's very, very low, but we're finding that it's winning on 2 ways. We sell a lot because it's so cheap, and so we do get more more money back. So we find that our next product we can get out sooner, and more people are happy. Spooky started off making things as cheap as possible so that more people can afford it. We're continuing, nothing's changed. And as a result of this, you have a peek in our forum or our Facebook groups. We've grown. Boy, Clive, we have grown. And we've grown because more and more people are realizing that our hearts are on the right side of the fence. We're batting for the people. We're batting really hard for the people that are suffering, that haven't had an answer until now on conditions which aren't medically serious necessarily, but they're serious for people. And we've proven that Flash kills cancer cells. We've proven it. People can't say, oh, that's hearsay, we can't prove it. Or there was our own laboratory, not an independent laboratory. We produced a video showing the tests being done in this laboratory. There's no question, Clive. We invested a lot of what money we had made through sales of other devices into this test. We are very, very serious. So we can state categorically, Flash kills cancer.
That would be a great place to end it. That's fantastic, John, and congratulations. And I look forward to the next episode when we're going to talk about the next wonder machine.
Yeah, me too. Nice talking, Clive.
Thanks, John.
Okay, bye-bye.